Starseed Ascension welcomes guests from a variety of backgrounds to gain perspectives, experiences, and information in the paranormal, spiritual, and ET space. We are a community of spiritual explorers who seek to help raise consciousness. And now, here's your host of Starseed Ascension, Jamie Voss Love.
Welcome back to Starseed Ascension. I'm your host, Jamie Voss Love. And just a quick note to tune into the UNX Network tomorrow at 9 p.m. Central Time for a spooky Halloween experience where Margie Kay and Race Hobbs interview UNX show host on their spookiest paranormal experiences. So tonight's special guest is a dedicated QHHT practitioner and a passionate guide in galactic awareness, past lives, and consciousness expansion. And so with the mission to help individuals connect with their higher self in multidimensional nature, she facilitates transformative journeys that unlock profound answers and clarity. She facilitates exploration of star origins and consciousness expansion through meditations, activations, and tailored sessions. And so this helps clients to achieve a more awakened and fulfilled life. So please welcome tonight's special guest from Australia, Nadia Gledhill.
Hi, Jamie. Thank you for having me.
Good to see you again.
Yeah, you too. It's been a while. It feels like it.
It does. So Nadia did a beautiful activation and meditation to connect with Star Family, which was so amazing. I love seeing, I was able to witness some of the folks that were meeting those beings for the first time, which was such a special experience to witness.
It was, yeah. There was, I think, a couple people who said they connected for the first time with some star family and star beings, which, was just fantastic to be part of.
Yeah. Well, thank you for bringing that to the table. And how are the energies treating you? I feel like a tumbleweed sometimes, just blowing in the solar flare wind.
Yes, I know. It's been a bit crazy. Well, I've been actually not too bad this time around. Usually I feel very, I go one extreme or the other. I'm either very tired constantly or I get 2 hours sleep a night and that's more than enough. So it's one extreme or the other. I tend to not be at either extreme, but then again, I just came back from 2 weeks overseas. So I don't know, maybe that little bit of time difference and jet lag possibly helped or is masking some of it.
Right on. So what, were you on a work trip or were you on a personal vacation or?
A work trip. So I went to what's called Moria in French Polynesia, near Tahiti, for a retreat that someone was running. Yeah, so I was running some group past life regression and also a similar offering to what I did on the Starseed thing that you put together with, so, meeting their cosmic family for the first time and things like that, or second time for some of them. Running some of those at the retreat, it was really good. It was a lot of fun.
Beautiful. And Moria is like the heart-shaped island, right?
It is. Yeah. So a lot of people at the retreat with connections to, Lemuria, and so it's where it was all those years ago, and very connected to ocean life, whales. So there was a lot of swimming with whales activities as well, and it was a lot of fun.
I love that. And so when you mentioned Lemuria and doing sort of diving into the past lives and regression, Do people generally know beforehand that they have this connection, or is that just something that's discovered when they explore the past life?
I think it's a bit of both. Some people have that inner knowing. Sometimes they may come across things to do, for example, with Lemuria or any time period or place, and they automatically feel a connection, with it. So a lot of people will tend to have that, I suppose, knowing already, whereas some people discover it through, regressions and things like that and meditations. It can go either way, it depends on where that first point of realization is, whether it's during a regression or, maybe even visiting a place can trigger memories for people as well. So it's different for everyone. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, definitely have more questions on that, but let's back up a little bit just for the people that are sort of tuning into to you for the first time and might not know a little bit about you and your background. Do you want to just tell us a little bit about what led you to this work and sort of your own spiritual journey?
Yeah. Oh gosh, where to start? Like all things, it's a long story, but I'll try and compact it as best I can. So I think for me, I've always been, I don't really like the word spiritual, but I'll use that. I've always been a spiritual person, and to different degrees. I suppose when I was younger, I didn't quite know what it meant. I was raised in a Catholic household, but that didn't really resonate with me. I felt like there was more to everything. And I was always very into what exists, not just outside of this physical world, when we pass over, but also looking out to the stars, what exists out there. And my dad would always have these books on, it's pre-internet days, so books on unexplained phenomena and UFOs and paranormal things. And I was reading those books. Kids were reading fairy tales and Ronald Dahl and Choose Your Adventure books, and I was into these other books. So I've always been really interested in all of that kind of stuff. And I suppose, like a lot of people, there were several points in my life where I was shoved a little bit more and shoved a little bit more and didn't listen and shoved a little bit more. But then eventually, I was looking for a very long time for, like a lot of people, purpose, and everything that I did or tried to do didn't quite resonate. I would try and I knew I wanted to help people. I just didn't know how. And there's so many ways to do that, so tried many different things and nothing really stuck. And then one day I came across Dolores Cannon and her work, and I didn't immediately think I want to be doing this. I immediately thought, wow, this really resonates with me. What types, with the information that she was uncovering and all the other practitioners were uncovering during sessions, I felt this deep knowing that what I was listening to was true. I would listen to stories from other things and I'd be like, there's parts of it that are true. But yeah, it just really resonated with me. And I sought out to have a session myself. And I just thought, this will be a really fun, cool experience. Let's see what comes out of it. And, and it was a great experience. And I always say I'm a bit of a slow learner in the sense that I didn't really understand at that point the impact that session had on me. It wasn't until a few months later where I was driving along the freeway mindlessly and all of a sudden it occurred to me, I thought, oh, wow, I've actually progressed in my life a fair bit, since I've had my session. And it was all because I was able to, I suppose, understand why certain things had happened in my life and leave those behind. I gained a lot of clarity around, situations in my life, and also my higher self or subconscious was, as it does for a lot of people, giving me advice during the session, which, I followed some of it, not all of it. We're all guilty of that, aren't we?
Sure.
So, and I realized, oh, wow, I've actually come a long way since that session, in my life. And then it hit me like a second hammer, which was, oh my gosh, this is what I need to be doing for people. This is how I can help people. And then, then I looked into studying, and then here I am. So it's like, that's the very condensed version of that. But yeah, what a journey it's been.
That's amazing. And so some of those benefits that you experience, you're helping people arrive at the same ones. Are there anything else that you've witnessed that can benefit people through the QHHT experience, such as healing physical ailments, or what are some of the other benefits you would add to that?
Yeah, definitely. So physical ailments as well. And, to this day, I still feel strange saying that, I'll be honest, because it does sound unbelievable, but I've seen it, so I can't deny it.
Sure.
I've had clients come in with things like fibromyalgia, who have, walked away healed from that. Knee pain, even things like really severe depression, to the point where they wanted to end their lives, and they've now got a completely new outlook, and it's just gone. Those feelings they had are gone. What else? Oh my gosh, there's been so many. Aches and pains. Had a lady who had this constant ringing in her head for, I can't remember how long. It was a long time, let's say a year or something, and doctors couldn't find what was going on, what was causing it. The higher self was able to remove that for her. So yeah, there are so many physical things as well. If it's appropriate, the higher self will be able to alleviate it or heal it for them. It's not always appropriate, because sometimes, and the higher self will give a reason why if it can't. But sometimes there are karmic reasons, or sometimes someone may have something that's actually, they actually wanted to have in this lifetime, and there'll be a reason behind that. So yeah, it can vary. But yeah, to see some phenomenal healings in sessions.
That's beautiful. I know for myself, experiencing QHHT, it helps better understand karma, karmic lessons, we'll call them, but also just like recurring patterns that went back deeper, that I realized. And I'm sure you see that. Are people able to work with the subconscious to kind of break through some of those patterns and cycles?
Yes, exactly. And they're things that would be very difficult for them to do otherwise, or it would take a very long time to chip away. But when you quieten the conscious mind and you're able to allow that higher self to come through, it's like putting yourself in a slingshot and just skipping all these steps that would otherwise take forever to get to that same point. It's amazing.
I love it. Going direct to source.
Yeah. That's it. And, that's what I love about QHHT as well, is that it doesn't rely on anyone else giving the person the information. I'm not giving it to them. It's not coming from me or from anyone else. It's coming through them. You can't get any more closer to the truth than that for the person, I feel.
Yeah, absolutely. And so when the subconscious is working to help alleviate anything, it doesn't necessarily have to happen through a past life. It can be direct conversation from higher self to.
Correct. Yeah, and usually it is. I mean, it will bring forward an experience for the client. So in a lot of cases, it'll be a past life. But we're seeing more and more these days that, sometimes people aren't taken to a past life. They may be taken to a time where they didn't have a physical body. So, a life where they were just consciousness. And then we explore that and see, well, what were they doing? You know, like what's going on? And we explore that, or even, you know, lives as ETs, some people regressing back to times in their current life as well. We just allow the subconscious and high self to bring through whatever experience the client needs. Because again, they know best what they need, we don't. So we allow them to bring through whatever experience the client needs. And there will be answers, or there's definitely always a reason why that particular experience is brought forward. And so it could be because of something that the client wants to know, or it may be something the client didn't even think they wanted or needed to know, but the higher self is like, no, this is the most important thing right now, so we're going to bring this situation forward for you. And then, you know, we explore that. But then after that, we actually connect directly with the subconscious or higher self. And that's where we're able to unpack a lot of information, such as, you know, why they were given that experience, what it means. You know, I'll ask questions around things that occurred during that experience to get some clarity around, well, why were they shown that? What does it mean? And then, of course, you know, that's where we can ask all of these questions around any concerns or physical ailments as well, and get some clarity and healing around those. So yeah, it's a whole experience, really. It's the whole package.
Wow. Yeah, so you sort of answered my next question, and I was going to ask, you know, if you have intention around kind of exploring a particular past life, but the subconscious may come in, or spirit, and may say, you know, this one's more important that you need to know right now.
Yeah, definitely. You know, people come in and they, some people like to know about a particular life that they think they may have had. And, you know, if the subconscious doesn't bring forward that life, it's definitely something I still ask the higher self about later on to get some more clarity. And sometimes when we ask about it, the higher self will take them there for whatever it is that they need, or it may just give them the answers or the information that they're looking for from that life. So it really depends on what the client needs as to what they'll bring through for them.
So then, do they ever re-enter a same lifetime, you know, over the course of multiple sessions, or does it usually end up being different lifetimes?
You know, it usually ends up being different lifetimes. I think clients QHHT is usually a one and done type thing. You don't sort of have repeat sessions.
Okay.
However, people, you know, will often seek out a repeat session if there's more things that they want to find out, or, you know, gain clarity around other things that have happened in their lives since. So if that's the case, usually that would relate to a different past life. So it will often bring through a different past life. It can bring through the same one. I'd say that's a bit more on the rare side. I mean, and we can direct a client to a particular past life if it's needed, but usually it's best to let the higher self guide the person there.
And do they typically remember a session, or is this something that's recorded that they can play back and even meditate on later to see if any additional information might want to come through?
Yeah, yes, all sessions are recorded, so the regression is recorded, and the client obviously gets a copy of that. It's for them, and, you know, we really do recommend listening to it afterwards, because, you know, the clients I mean, they're lucid throughout, they're not asleep, so they will remember parts. And even clients that say, oh, I've remembered the whole thing, they'll listen to the recording, and sometimes they contact me and say, oh, actually, I didn't remember the whole thing, you know, because you don't remember what you don't remember, right? So
right.
We really encourage that, to listen to the recording and get all of that information while you're in a very conscious state. You know, because obviously it came through because they needed that information. So it's it's a lot of benefit to listen to it in a conscious state as well, to help embed that information and answers. So, but, you know, we find more and more. I was just speaking about this the other day, and actually Dolores, who passed away 10 years ago now, towards the end of her career, she was saying that less and less of her clients at that time were having, those kind of sessions where you have amnesia. You wake up and you don't remember a thing. Very few of her clients were going through that at that point. And, we find that more and more to this day, that people are much more aware during sessions. And, it is because our consciousness is rising, right? So our frequency is rising. We don't need to sort of, many 20, 40 years ago, we'd have to come from here to get that information. Whereas now you don't have to raise your frequency as high to tap in and get that data. So, a lot of people, not many actually have, I've only ever had a handful, very small handful, who have woken up or, got up from the couch and said, don't remember a thing, like just nothing. Most people will remember a large chunk, and that's actually a really good thing, because like I said, our consciousness is rising. So interesting times.
Well, you mentioned Dolores Cannon, who obviously was a pioneer in quantum hypnosis.
While most near-death experiencers return to this plane of existence with alluring tales of their time spent in the presence of the divine, what happens when one crosses the veil into the afterlife, into the void? In the new book, Dying to Meet Them, Mindy Toutfest describes her journey to the afterlife after a devastating aneurysm, how a strange turn of events would lead her to spiritual growth, divine healing, UFO experiences, and a greater understanding of the universe. Get your copy of Dying to Meet Them today at Amazon.com or visit unxmedia.com for more information on this book and more amazing selections from UnX Media Publishing at unxmedia.com.
This is Margie Kay, and I'd like to say thank you to all of our KUNX show hosts, staff, listeners, and viewers for making us number one on Paranormal Talk Radio.
The UnX Network presents a health and wellness spiritually based brand of hemp-derived CBD products made by Hopewell Farm in Harrogate, Tennessee. We apply our Cathara energy work with all of our plants and products. Our products made in small batches with only 2 ingredients of pure hemp, full-spectrum crude oil, and coconut-derived MCT oil. Third-party lab tested for potency and legal THC levels with 6 strengths of 1 ounce oil to choose from. Know what you're buying and get what you pay for from Hopewell Farm. Applied directly to a specific area, Hopewell Farm topical salve in 1 ounce and ½ ounce sizes, made with pure hemp crude oil, comfrey extract, and all natural ingredients. Find the Hopewell Farm link and coupon code on the UnX Network website at unxnetwork.com. That's unxnetwork.com.
Welcome back to Starseed Ascension, and I am here tonight with Nadia Gledhill.
Hello.
Dolores wanted a commercial break after all.
Must have.
Yeah, so just checking in to see like how it has evolved.
Hey, I'm jumping in here real quick.
Oh, okay.
I was a personal friend of Dolores Cannon's. You know, she lived right here in Arkansas, just right up the road from me. But I actually had the pleasure of working with that wonderful soul for like the last 6 years of her life. And I'm personal friends with her daughter, Julia, and such a wonderful family. And, hearing Nadia bring her up, it brought back all these. And I'm back here. I can't do anything. I can't say anything. I said, you know what? After the break, I'm coming in to tell them that I knew her. He was just an angelic presence about her, that grandmotherly, angelic presence that just, you just don't come across every day. And she had it. So I just wanted to say that from Arkansas all the way over to Australia, we're sending you some
beautiful
love, Nadia.
Thank you. Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, what a memory to have. to remember working with her. She's I think every practitioner would have loved to have worked with her. Such an amazing woman.
Absolutely, she truly is the grandmother type, isn't she? Just want to like give her a big hug. What's that?
The grandmother we all want.
Oh yeah. I love it, Dolores. The grandmother we all want. Well, I'm happy that we thank you, Race, for coming in and sharing that. That's beautiful and just amazing to know about her family as well. That it extends beyond her. So
exactly.
So do you feel, Nadia, that it has evolved since Dolores Cannon's transition, or is it still, this is the foundation and this is the way the framework is structured and what we all kind of go by?
Yeah, look, in terms of the structure and the framework of the way it's performed, it's still, well, I can only speak for myself, I suppose, because I don't sit in on everyone's sessions. But, when you do learn QHHT, even though Dolores has passed, you're still learning from her because all the training was recorded by Dolores. So, which I love, because it's not diluted. You're learning to perform it the exact same way that she did. And so as a practitioner, as long as you still follow the way she taught, then it's the procedure itself hasn't changed. It's still done the way she developed it. And, I don't think it really has to even evolve, because the way that it's structured and the way that it's done is that it leaves everything really open to the client's higher self. So as people evolve, the sessions naturally evolve in a certain way. As I said, a lot of people now don't have the amnesia. More people are experiencing things like consciousness and other dimensions because they're ready for that. Less people were ready for that 20 years ago. So I suppose the content and the outcome of the sessions are evolving, but the framework is still pure to how Dolores had devised it. Does that make sense? So,
absolutely. Yeah. And it's so powerful. It really empowers the person and showcases sovereignty, and it seems to be the most powerful transformation, that this is true, not because somebody is telling me it's true. It's because I'm finding it to be true through my own consciousness and exploration. So
correct.
Very
They're reaching those answers themselves, and it empowers people to understand we always do have that connection with our higher self. You don't need a QHHT session to have that connection. It's there. Sure, it's easier because, in a session your conscious mind can recede a lot and the connection becomes clearer. You've got someone guiding and things like that. But having that connection in a session, clients then begin to recognize what that connection feels like in their day-to-day life. And that empowers them to make that connection and seek answers when they need it, rather than having to seek it from someone else. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Beautiful. So I want to talk a little bit about our galactic friends and family. And just wondering, on your own personal journey, did you discover those connections through QHHT, through meditation, or some other experience you want to share about your own personal?
Yeah, well, again, where do you start? So I've had some contact prior to QHHT,
Okay.
as in like literal, like 3D world contact. So I've seen, and I'm glad I had other people there that saw the same thing because
Yeah, tell us about that.
Well, yeah. So the first one, it's quite a funny story. So this was during the lockdowns of a few years ago. It didn't happen during the lockdowns, but during the lockdowns, my husband and I were watching a documentary on, I can't remember which one, on Netflix about UFOs or ETs, something like that, as you do, binge watching all that stuff. And we saw an episode, and this particular craft was on the screen. It was like a triangular craft with lights, and the way the people were describing it. And at that moment, I'll never forget this. My husband and I just turned and looked at each other. And I looked at him, and he looked at me, and I said, "We've seen that." And he looked at me and said, "Yeah, we have." And I was like, "Why don't I remember that?" It was like when I saw it on the TV, it triggered, well, for us, it triggered our memory of seeing it. I was more shocked, and to this day, I'm still more annoyed. Not that I, not disturbed or rattled that I saw it. Not at all. Not worried about that. I'm more disturbed that I don't remember it. I couldn't remember it. I was like, how do you see something like that and not remember it? Like, it's like I would have been talking about it constantly. That's what really threw me. So yeah, we had the same recollection, but only up to a certain point. We saw the lights kind of, I'd say they separated, or one in particular darted off very, very quickly. It then came back and rejoined the formation, and then after a little while, it sort of just shot up. It was just gone. And we both had that exact same recollection, which, again, we just didn't remember a thing. And both of us have also had another experience where we were both, look, our memories are completely wiped from about 6, 7 p.m. onwards to the next day. So we both don't exactly know what happened. There was another incident.
Last time.
Yeah. And, I've heard of people losing small chunks of time, but for us, it was an entire evening. We don't remember anything. It was still daylight when we last remembered anything, and then we woke up the next day. We have zero recollection, which is interesting in itself. But, yeah, so I've had contact through there. I've also been shown in a session that I had a few years ago, a being which, how do I explain this? For anyone who's had a QHHT session before, they'd know that sometimes not all your sessions are visual. You have other sensations that come through, right? So in this particular session that I had, it wasn't a very visual session. It was more feelings, knowings, and tactile sensations. So I recall in the session saying, I feel like someone was sort of grabbing my arms like that, both of my arms. And when I looked, in the session, looked up, I could see these sort of, I'd say like a pale purpley arms holding my arms. And I looked up and I could see part of the body, but that was all I got. I just got a very, very small portion. But in that moment, and again, don't know how I knew, it just came to me. I just knew it. I was like, that's me. Like there was a knowing that was a fragment of me in another dimension, living another life. So I've seen things in sessions as well. Yeah, and of course, and then there's always, meeting them through, going into those deep states and making contact through there. But yeah, a few experiences.
Very cool.
And look, there'll be more that I don't remember yet. Who knows?
Sure.
What's something else that I'll remember? Yeah.
Something you might be watching something and it triggers a memory.
And then, like I said, I was just, to this day, I'm so grateful that my husband was also witness to that, because, and he was also, he remembered that same moment I did, but again, just those little fragments, and that was it. But yeah, otherwise I'd be thinking, did I just remember that because I saw something? But I mean, I watch documentaries all the time and things like, they'd always be triggering memories if it was just made up. You know what I mean? But yeah, so some interesting experiences.
I love how you still have that like logical, analytical part of the. You're like,
yeah, but we're human, right? We do. You can't, it's that, I call it my human brain. It's that human brain that kicks in, that wants to question everything. And I don't think it's something we necessarily need to lose or drop. I think it's just having that discernment and knowing when the human mind is wrong and when it's right, or, when it's overthinking something. Yeah.
I love it. Keeps it all open.
That's right.
So have you encountered, or did you learn about different star races or galactic races through these sessions that maybe were some that aren't as common, or if they were as common? Well, I guess, what are some of the common ones, and what are some of the
So some of the more common ones that come up in sessions. This is terrible. I've got a terrible memory with sessions unless I have my notes with me. But I do know that Palladians come up a little bit. Andromedans, I haven't had as many. I've maybe had a handful. The Arcturians come forward a lot. Sometimes not even as a life or anything related to the client, but I've had clients go to, the Arcturian healing chambers before. They get taken there for some soul healing. So they've come through a fair bit. What else? Lyrans, again, just like a handful. I'd say the most common that tend to pop in are the Arcturians and the Pleiadians. Yes, Syrians as well. Yeah, but I think Arcturian and the Palladians tend to be the one that I encounter the most. And in terms of, I know there's been other star races who, just going by the description and the description of the being and the environment and what they're doing, I think, I don't know what this one is. So there'll be, because obviously there's plenty that we don't know or don't label.
Right.
Oh, actually, and the greys as well. Sorry, the greys. I've had actually quite a few of those as well that have come through, or people. A lot of them actually come through as, I don't know how you would put this, not quite a parallel life, or maybe like a parallel life, but it's like a fragment of that person who's watching them live out this life. And, when I say intervening when they need to or they're asked to, but they kind of tend to watch the person very closely, which would probably explain why a lot of people, have these encounters with row beings.
Sure.
But it's not watched in a negative way at all, not that I've ever come across. They're more keeping an eye on them, more like a guardian, almost like a guardian type, seeing what's going on type experience. Yeah.
And so you mentioned, the observation and potentially parallel realities it could be, for sure. And as well as some, healing experiences like the Arcturian chambers. What are there messages that sometimes come through as well? I know that you also are in the galactic awareness space. So is that messages that come through the sessions or something else, or do you want to speak to that?
Yeah. So I suppose, look, in terms of the sessions, most people's or most messages that come through those beings, or come through the experience of the person having that experience with the being, usually relates just to that person rather than the collective. Although at the end, I will sometimes ask if there is anything that needs, to be out there. And, a lot of the time, most of the messages are about, it's going to sound really cliche, but it really is. A lot of the messaging that comes through is just about love and not, what's the word, not damaging or doing anything to damage our planet. I think there's a lot of, I wouldn't say confusion on their end. I would never say they're confused. They're probably just they can't comprehend why we do some of the things that we do. Like for them, it makes no sense. With the fighting and the wars and everything else, the lack of clean drinking water in some areas, they're like, why do you even, they know we do this to ourselves. And that's like, they're like, what are you doing that for? That just makes no sense to them. So yeah, there's a lot of messages around those kinds of things, us damaging our environment and ourselves in the process. I think they find that quite fascinating to watch in a disturbing kind of way, like watching a wreck. Yeah, you can't look away.
And do they sort of give guidance on how to, well, maybe not a blueprint per se, but just that there's hope for the future and that we're in this transformation?
Yeah, there's definitely hope for the future. We're not a lost cause by any stretch of by any stretch of it, but I think they just see the path that we're heading down, and watching very closely what's going on there. But they are starting to, or we really, not they, but when I say they are starting to make more contact, I don't think they are necessarily starting to make any more contact or be any more present than they already were. I think it's because we humans are raising our consciousness, raising our awareness, that we are becoming more aware of them. Like they've always been there,
Sure.
I think we are the ones becoming more aware of them, and for that's a very positive way of looking at it, and it just shows that as we continue to grow, we are heading in the right direction. I think it's not going to be like the days of Atlantis, where we get to the point where we essentially destroy ourselves, with technology and all that kind of stuff. It's definitely not heading that way. We are heading in that right direction. But yeah, I mean, the messages, the things that they give around that, again, it's just about, it sounds so cliche, but it really just is about love and just making sure we take care of everything and ourselves, and continuing to raise our awareness, because as we do, everything sort of flows down from there. It's like a domino effect. You can't become more aware and more conscious and vibrate at a high frequency and still do all of these terrible things. You just don't. It is that domino effect. So yeah, I'm very interested to see how the next few decades even will unfold in that space.
Very cool. And so speaking of, you mentioned technologies. Do you ever come across ancient technologies in a session, like in Atlantis or?
The most ancient that I can think of is not even in the physical world. I had a client, look, it's probably about 2 years ago now, it was a long time ago, who went back to a time where she was consciousness. She was right near, I think she described it as like near the door, well, obviously not a physical doorway, but described as like near the doorway to source. She was like right there. and she was involved in the creation of timelines. And so she described it as seeing like this machine that there were all these different threads of light, and each different color, and each thread was a different timeline. And they were essentially creating this time. Essentially, it was a creation of time, so that the 3D world could exist. So it's like even going back before that, and that was really fascinating to explore, because there were souls there waiting to go on certain timelines. There were, people going, okay, this soul, I'm going to experience this and this, and she saw the splitting of the souls going into different timelines simultaneously. Yeah, that's in terms of ancient, like that's probably as ancient as I've had even before physical world stuff, which I find absolutely fascinating. And interestingly, I had another client who went back to a similar time, except instead of creating time, this client was involved in creating energy, and creating energy in the sense that it was energy that we on the 3D level were able to use. And he was a male client. He explained it as, as 3D beings, we can't create energy. We don't actually create anything. We just, use and manipulate what's already there. And so he was creating the energy we can use and manipulate. And so that was really interesting as well. So I had the creation of the timelines to enable to create 3D, because it's the only place time exists, right? So they had to create the time in order to create 3D. And then this person was creating the energy that goes into the creation of the 3D world. So I found that really fascinating too, two completely different clients around the same time, but yet doing different things, different jobs, you could call it, to help with the creation of this dimension. And that was fascinating. I find all of that sort of otherworldly stuff very, very fascinating. I still love the ancient stuff on Earth, don't get me wrong, but the things like, that otherworldly stuff that you can't find out in textbooks, that's really fascinating to me.
Well, speaking of ancient structures on Earth, has anyone divulged the secrets of the pyramids, or how they carried or sound frequency or thought into the megalithic?
Oh, look, let's just say it wasn't all human creation, but I actually did have someone go back to, again, I'm noticing a pattern here, this is strange, but I did have someone go back to the time before the pyramids, but in that same area, but they were creating, I'm trying to think what it was now. They were in a pyramid-like structure, but it wasn't the pyramids. And it had windows. I'm just trying to remember this. There was like an opening on one side which let the sun in. I think there was something on the other side that lined up with the moon. There was this whole thing, and the energies would come in, and it would stir something up within the pyramid. They would then have to expel that energy. I should go and find this session actually. I can't quite remember, but I remember that it had to expel the energy from this structure. But what it was doing was outside there, it looked like all sand, but it wasn't. It was very, very fine little crystals. And they were being used to, I think it was a type of quartz. And as we all know, crystals have their own energy and capabilities. And this quartz was being used to form the land there. This is prior to the actual pyramids being built on that land. So again, going way back even before the pyramids were built, and what was there before that was quite interesting to discover, in the way that pyramid structure would generate the energy. But I had people go back to the time of the pyramids, not to the construction of the pyramids as such, from scratch, but definitely the people at the time of the pyramids did know, obviously, how they were built. So we're able to find out some information through there. And there was definitely assistance, not from from this world.
Sure.
Yeah, it's. I haven't had anyone go back to actually the time where they were being constructed to really sort of drill that into that even further. But the people at the time living there and did know that it wasn't all them. They played a big part for sure.
Very cool.
Not all. There's definitely assistance from our little star families.
So it's still top secret for the moment.
Oh, look, if I get someone who, they would often call them, like, for example, like gods. They saw these beings as gods who would help them build the buildings, which, I mean, makes sense, right? They see they come from the sun. They're just, they're gods to them, and they're very advanced. They have a lot of knowledge, so they see them as these gods that helped them build the pyramids. But I'd love to have a client actually who goes back to a time where they were actually there when they're being constructed, or I don't know, the planning stage or something, so they can see who actually did what, But yeah, they would usually say, clients that go back to those days would, that it was like the gods or whatever other term they would use that would help them. Even like Toth and things like that, they used to get their information from star families as well. Obviously, not knowing it at the time, they would say they're gods, but yeah. So that's a little bit received through clients, yeah.
Well, I bet you have helped heal a lot of witch wounds of times of working with gifts and
people used to get punished. Yeah. Like a lot of punishment years ago, a few hundred years ago, punished for, working with herbs even, making little concoctions from herbs and using those, and people would get punished. And it's interesting. I've had a few of those clients, and they're the ones who are like, "Oh, I was always wondered why I love, like they love gardening or they love herbs, they love growing things. They just I don't know where it comes from. No one in my family likes doing this, but they have this real pull towards, even natural healing remedies and things." But often these people are afraid to put themselves out there, and they're afraid to take steps in their business or let people know what they're doing or whatever that may be. And it's often because they were punished for that in a past life. So that's what's actually, without them realizing it, that's what's holding them back, because on that very deep soul level, they're thinking, well, if I come out, I'm going to get punished. I'm going to get burned at the stake or, stoned to death or whatever it is. So, and thank goodness times have changed from then. But yeah, so it's cool when people realize where that blockage, where that belief comes from, and they're able to release it. They're then free to do, to progress and do what they want. Applies to everything really, but that's probably a good example of people with those what we call witch wounds. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing how much data is embedded right into our cellular memory, and
we hold on to it and carry it. Yeah, it's just stagnant energy, stuck energy.
Wow. I did have a question from somebody that came through. Yeah. They wanted to know if we can be an animal in a past life.
Oh, you would have been an animal. You would have not have been an animal. We tend to go through the levels of consciousness as it's a great question. So, I've had clients before animals. I've had clients who were trees, plants. I've had someone once who was a rock. That was really interesting. I had to try and figure out what they were, because obviously a rock doesn't know it's a rock. So, but yeah, so definitely everything, we have to go through all of these different experiences, even before we get to that human level, because we need to build essentially build our consciousness, work our way through those dimensions, get all of these experiences and lessons under our belt. And it's all part of our soul journey and evolution. So definitely we would have all been an animal at some point. Maybe several.
I love
even.
it. Well, I definitely could continue this conversation, but we're up on time because, there's so many more questions. It's such an interesting, fascinating topic. I love the work that you do. Is there anything you want to share about how to reach you, or anything you have, any offerings that you have available?
Yeah, sure. My Instagram is QHHT.Australia. I do QHHT sessions. They're one-on-one in person, but QHHT does have to be done in person. There is another form of quantum hypnosis I can do online, which is also available to book through my link on Instagram. And I actually have in a couple of weeks. I haven't done one in a long time. I'm doing an online past life group workshop, past life regression group workshop in a couple of weeks, mid-ish November, which the link to that's on my Instagram as well. So it's a really nice way to get a taste of, what QHHT is like, but also, to experience your own past life regression, your own past life experience. And, and in those group sessions, some people go to normal human lives, some people go to other planets, or they can go anywhere as well. They could be an animal. So, they're always really fun and a lot of very eye-opening for people, that's for sure. It's a great experience.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much. And we'll put your information down below. And thank you for everyone listening, watching. Until next time, may you find peace in the mysteries of the cosmos. Much love.
Thank you.